Rocket ship go now. Hello, I am Robert Ogilvy, Executive Strategist and EQ Coach. Glad you guys could join me today. Today's question, today's issue. Do you know what types of team coaching are strengthening your team, making them better over time, making them perform better, making them operate better with each other, and which are sabotaging them, which might seem to be helping or you want to think could be helping, but are not only not, but they're actually detracting from it. And some are worse than others at that. Do you know the difference between these two types of things? Could you see a coaching activity, break down what it's doing and say, yep, more of that, or say, stop that? This is actually a very hard question, and in some sense, it digs into both what good coaching is, but also what good management is. Also, the good thing is we're going to be actually approaching this from the leader's lens, because the question is, how do you like what would you want good team coaching to look like, and what does that mean for what your role as the team manager, as the team leader is, right? Because these two things are interrelated, and you can imagine too in situations where it's like you as the manager kind of connected to performance, kind of connected to talent, kind of connected to the business case, the project mission of why they're there, right? It can become often kind of hard to sort out, which functions kind of belong to you and which kind of belong to the team itself. So when are you adding and when are you interfering, frankly, can be a hard question. And it's also actually, I would say, part of the way the management role is evolving. To truly actually take on the team enabling side of what it's doing, and less of the kind of the blunt opsy supervisor role it would have been in the past. And this is actually only becoming more true as we become more advanced intellectual and innovation workers, right? The nature of how we work is becoming more cross-functional and expert related, so that you can't have this know-it-all manager saying this is exactly how you do it, and you need to have someone who is good at all of the people coaching, performance enablement end of things, as opposed to someone who can preemptively already know all the right answers. If your work is that straightforward, newsflash, you're probably not a team. You're probably just a work group. Anyway, let's just dig into what these pieces are. Okay, so I was contemplating calling this video the good, the bad, and the ugly. Really, what it is like the best, the okay, the kind of good enough stuff, and then the stuff to avoid. Okay, so what team coaching behaviors do you want to see in your team? Okay, so you want to see a high focus on tasks. What that means is that a lot of the coaching is then dealing with how they're performing in a task and how they want to get better, and the feedback cycles around the nature of the work outputs and the task outputs, how they're operating. Um, and that one is obviously good. I don't think I'm blowing anyone's mind to say that that's useful. And then so that's the best stuff. One step down from that, the kind of okay category. Um, there's one other one actually we should probably put in that first category, sorry. And this has to do with different types of reinforcement. If you can positively reinforce good things that the team is doing, that's great. So this is a good time just to recap what is positive reinforcement. So a reinforcer increases the frequency of a behavior. And it could be as simple as praise, but it could be whatever rewards. Positive reinforcement is thus when you throw that at a good behavior you want to see more of, right? And that's actually part of the magic of why you'd want to reinforce good behaviors is that if the team endogenously, organically themselves came up with and tried something and it was useful, it worked, it was an effective way to approach things, it's like, yeah, yeah, more of that. That good thing you just did, keep doing the good thing. Yeah, that's like make that a habit, right? They need to hear that. That's going to make them better. That's part of the team level feedback loops, which are going to help them know what they should be focusing on, right? What outcomes are actually worth doing. Okay, great. Task focus, positive reinforcement of the right behaviors. Okay, good. One step down from that. Anything that's going to help the team feel good, feel positive, or resolve conflict is useful. It helps. Um, it's not always the best because you want the team to ultimately be able to do some of this itself. But these are useful things as well to do. And frankly, this is one of those, particularly underscoring the conflict side of this, is there something big and explosive? Yeah, it's part of your job to stop it early before it becomes worse, right? But it's at least at the scale we're talking about it here. You don't want this to be a big focus of your team coaching. That's a bad sign, right? If proportionally you're focusing too much on that. What is the worst type of team coaching? So the TDS describes the Team Diagnostic Survey, basically calls it anything that is a very straightforward name, unhelpful. Okay, so let's parse that out a bit more. Is it helping the task performance get better? No. Great. Is it helping the people relate better? No. Then why the heck are we doing it? And you know what? This is a good time to remind everyone less than 10% of coaches are trained and certified. Lots of people might have years of experience in doing something. It doesn't mean they can teach or help or coach others to do it. And it's also, really bad if you're coming from too theoretical a lens or frankly, you have your own pet ideas that are either untested, right? Because then you can just be kind of arbitrarily deciding people to do this or that. And it's like, why are we doing this? Is this proven? Is this useful? Right? So like check into your own wisdom there. If it's not helping the team feel better and operate better amongst themselves or get better at how they're working and performing tasks, like don't do it, right? Like stop. That's a bad focus for your coaching. Like there's not much ROI in that. So stop it, right? So being able to kind of note that are the tasks we're doing getting better? Is the team operating okay? And just don't bother to do anything that's off point. That's really useful. That also, I would say, at best helps make sure that whenever you are engaging in a team coaching behavior, that it is actually high ROI and useful. People expect good things out of it. They see the enablement it brings them, and it's worthwhile to do, right? If you start engaging in kind of mid and low quality activities in coaching itself will become diluted and ultimately disrespected, and rightly so, because it's not focusing on things that are long term making them effective and allowing them to insource it. Okay, similar but ultimately different question. So, what does this mean for the leader's role? What activity should the leader be doing? And this is the reason I say this is, similar but different. The leader could be the person doing the team coaching, but best case scenario, you would have a trained external coach come in, but it could be the leader doing the team coaching side of it. Okay, so what does this mean for the manager, the leader's job themselves? What does that mean they should be focused on? Okay, well, so here's what it is. Um, Building up good positive group processes, right? Particularly if you look at the main three outcome variables, we want their task performance to be good, but we also want good group processes, which relates to they're getting better at their work, they're learning and developing over time. And the last one is satisfaction, right? And so this is just a good reminder that it's like the better their team processes are, the better they're working, the better they're learning and developing. That's friggin' jammy. Second area that's really good for the manager to focus on. The term the TDS would use is that focuses on the team member structuring the team or their work. So this comes into something they would call compelling purpose. But what this relates to is ultimately the business case of why you're there, what consequential, worthwhile outcomes are you going after, and then this starts to relate to who's in the right role. So are you in the right role to be able to do that thing. And that relates to kind of the micro scale business case of how do we capture value of you and of you and of you and of you. And is this worth doing? Okay, that's a good activity for managers to do. And you can imagine that in innovation teams where there's a lot of cross functionality, you often need to kind of assess and reassess. Is someone it may be as binary as like this one job or that one job, but in an innovation or even a startup environment, they might have a few hats. They might have half a dozen hats, and they might say, well, listen, take off this hat and this hat, put on this hat and this hat, and go from there. I will say the modern management systems that deal with circles and multiple roles are very much about that. So there is this fluid kind of, you can offload roles, you can intake new roles, and that allows you to job craft and play to how you add most value over time, right? But again, that's really just what they would call here structuring the team and the work, right? The business case of how are we adding value and who's in what seat to add value, right? Who's in what role to add value. That's a good thing for managers to do. That's fantastic. That also kind of gets into the ROI in the business case of, wait, why am I paying you a paycheck? Oh, to do this thing? Okay, yeah, that's a valuable thing. Keep doing that thing. Great. Uh, third one, weird description. TDS would use the term running external interference. Okay, here's probably a better way to describe it. Championing your team, pulling the resources, trying to get you guys the clout and influence you need. The right could be the right early adopters, the right outer stakeholders, or the right authority in decision making. Right. So you've probably heard the notion of a project sponsor, or sometimes framed like a project champion. That's what this is. That's super good for a manager to help give you guys the resources and the clout you need to unlock the doors you need for you guys to succeed. That is excellent, right? That works particularly well because the manager becomes almost like a kind of vague salesperson to kind of create the business case, create the incoming revenue for the team that's the project team itself doing the execution work, right? And what's actually are they saying not so good for the manager to focus on? Individual coaching. It's not bad, but they actually see that as part of structuring the work and more of a role of coaching itself. The manager should operate at the team level, right? They see it as less their job to focus on the individual. Okay, now you have a high level sense of how to do this. That's all I have time for today. But remember, task performance and reinforcing the right behaviors are good. Leveling out conflict isn't bad. And if you're doing unhelpful stuff, if you're doing stuff that's not helping the team get better tasks or operate better amongst themselves, just stop doing it. Your role is to enable your team. That's it. See you guys next time.